I'm going to talk a little bit about monster density while I do another one of these nightmare dungeons. I've been doing a few of these now, and I got to tell you guys, this feels significantly better. I'm actually pretty impressed with how much better the nightmare dungeons feel. Before, it kind of felt like the nightmare dungeons, the packs of mobs were few and far between. You go kill this mob, and then you run for a bit in the dungeon. You will kill the next mob, and now with the monster density buff, it definitely feels like the nightmare dungeons are basically just packed full of mobs. It feels at least like a 50% increase, like we were looking when we were kind of counting the numbers there when they were doing their campfire chat. The loot definitely seems increased because obviously we're just killing more mobs. And it definitely makes me appreciate things like Corpse Tindro more, the ones that pull monsters together. I'm also noticing that the dungeons are going to be probably more difficult. So I'm going to have to be careful when I'm doing it on my hardcore because there's so many more mobs now. You can get overwhelmed much easier than you could before. And that's actually a good thing in my opinion, because before the dungeons feel a little bit, they could feel a little bit bland. We're doing a lot of them, but now it feels a little bit more visceral. There's actually a significant increase. I did a couple of the bosses. The bosses definitely have more HP. You can notice that because they were buffing bosses by as much as 150% increase at level 150, which would be your Nightmare tier 100, for instance, and down to like level 100, they have 100% increase P, or double HP increase at level 100, basically. But you can kind of see already how much increase these are in terms of mod packs and even the elites as well. And I'm really enjoying that. There's absolutely no doubt this is an increase, in my opinion, in terms of enjoyability, because now it actually kind of feels a little bit more tricky. You have more mobs, which means more difficulty, but also more reward for the difficulty. So it's not just sort of like before where they, nerfed some of the stuff and there's no increase in rewards. Now the difficulty scales because there's more mobs, but because there's more mobs, you're actually getting more rewards. So the fact that the difficultiness or the scariness of it when I'm going to log into my hardcore here is improved, feels fine to me because I'm actually getting something for the difficulty increase. So that's kind of the way I've been looking at it, which is like, I actually really like this. This seems like a pretty fair trade-off in my opinion. The loot's better, so if you're one of those people that like to go and sell your loot as soon as you get full inventory, you're going to be going back to base quite often, which makes me realize we probably next need to do something about inventory space if we want to make it a little bit more of quality life as efficient as possible. But I'm not going to worry about that because for today, look at how many ghouls are right here. They definitely jacked up the mob. Look how many mobs there are now, and you gotta love that. Now it's starting to feel like Diablo, you know what I mean? That's the best improvement they've done so far in the game. In my opinion, that's like the best improvement. I'm actually gonna die here. So I'm loving the new Nightmare Dungeons. I'm excited to log on to the hardcore and stream today and try to level and try not to die while going through the Nightmare Dungeons. So we're going to be testing that and see exactly how strong it is in terms of leveling. But the Necromancer also got a buff, basically, because now the Circle of Exposed Flesh doesn't just work with bone scales, which the bummer part about this one is it used to only work with bone scales, and then this one that got buffed as well, Torment, only works with bone scales still, critical strikes with bone scales. So both of your Essence Generation only worked with bone scales, which didn't work very well at all, obviously, if you're doing like Bloodlance or something. But now somebody just has to be vulnerable, and there's ways to get people vulnerable, mostly by Corpse Tindro, and Corpse Tindro is going to be even better now because of these huge packs of mobs. Pulling them in and seeing them is going to be even more important with large packs of mobs, which works really well with the Circle of Exposed Flesh. So far for me, I am quite enjoying this update because it's hitting me right where I want. You want to kill big packs of mobs. I want to get more loot, more experience, and that's pretty much what we're getting from this. Now, the cool thing about this is it's not just Nightmare Dungeons, it's also in Hell Tides. As of the making of this video, I haven't had a chance actually to try out the Hell Tides yet, but increasing Hell Tides as well will be nice because that's going to increase our Cinder drops, which will increase the amount of loot that we get from the Hell Tides. Definitely can feel the fact that bosses have more HP now. Even at only level 100, they have basically double the current HP. And goblins, as soon as level 6, have an increased guarantee or an increased legendary drop and a guaranteed legendary drop at level 15. This is a big W in my personal opinion because now Treasure Goblins, there's actually a reason to hunt them down while you're in a dungeon. And because the density is increased and we're getting more XP faster when we're doing things like using our potions, they're 30 minutes to get 5% increased XP. I feel like I'm getting more value out of that increased XP now as well. It just kind of feels like all W's. If you remember this patch, this is the previous one that people really were not happy about. What they did before is they nerfed things and they made things more difficult and nerf things at the same time. So for instance, previously this patch was showing that now you have to be up level 10 to get 15% bonus XP, etc. And one of my complaints during that time was, hey, well, you guys are nerfing things without adding or making things more difficult without adding any like increase of rewards. But now in this nightmare dungeon, I feel like it's got more difficult because there's more mobs, so you can be killed a little bit quicker if you get surrounded, etc., which is just like a standard Diablo thing. But now the fact that it's more difficult actually has an offset of more rewards at the same time. It's not that they just jacked our stats down and now everything's just harder. It's harder because we're killing more, and killing more rewards us more. So it feels like a very fair, good trade-off. I like it a lot. Necromancer's also got the Paragon board changed from 50 willpower requirement to 40 willpower requirement on the Wither, which actually double dips from another change they made, which makes the Sever now have a chance to spawn Blight under dealing increased bonus damage instead of having to have a critical strike chance. It just has a raw chance now of this happening. Because of this is all shadow-based damage, so is Blight. The fact that Wither board is now better as well with your shadow damage over time effects. This is sort of a double dip, making Shadow even better. It's nice to see the move away from like Bone Spear being the only thing, with Bloodlance getting a nice seasonal aspect, and now the Blight and Sever getting a little bit of buffs as well. You love to see that. It actually feels like a pretty good time to be a Necromancer right now. I'm not going to lie to you. It feels pretty good. So for me so far, the patch is a thumb up. I like pretty much everything about the patch. I hope we get more of these ones in the future because it's encouraging at a time that I feel like we need some encouragement. So that's about it. W for me. They love you all. See you on the live streams as we try not to die on the Hardcore Necromancer once again. You can find it in the pinned comment as well as description of this video.